Buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, yeah, baby. Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning, my friends. Welcome to Thursday. How are you? How are you doing? I guess it's getting biblical up in Fairbanks. Everybody's been talking about they were looking for two animals of every kind and a big boat. That's what I heard. I heard that late last night, early this morning, that's what they were looking for down there. Big wooden boat on the Chena and two animals of every kind. Apparently the Mother Nature had a way of dealing with all those forest fires, and she decided to put on a quite a display. So we hope you're staying warm and dry and enjoying yourself here on this week, here as we get ready to rock and roll. Today's program, in hour one, we've got some interesting stories from around the state. I got some good news, which has been a while since we've done some good news, and I got a couple great good news stories that I want to highlight. And then in hour two, we're going to be joined by Representative Sarah Vance from Homer, who is going to come in with us and talk with us about the potential for the special session and what's going on there, and will she be attending, or what are her thoughts on the overall process? Why did the governor call for those specific items on the call, etc.? We'll have a running conversation with Sarah Vance here in hour two on the program today. And then tomorrow, I'm working on a couple different guests. I don't know. We're probably going to have Chris Chang on. He's scheduled to be on, and I'm assuming even with the holiday last Friday that he will be on tomorrow. But I'm assuming we'll have Chris Chang on, and I'm working on either Eric Pratt from Gun Owners of America to talk about the Hush Act, or potentially David Codrea. I don't know. I'm working on both. We'll see what we can come up with. How about that? No promises, though. We're doing our best here as we go through. All right, I got like a million tabs open on my browser today because there are a bunch of stories that are going on around the state. One of the most interesting ones that kind of caught my attention was actually a story from a couple days ago that was in the Peninsula Clarion, and this is an interesting story. And again, I would like to highlight before I get into the story that I am not trying to be critical of. I know anytime I have to caveat something in the beginning, that it could be problematic. All right, I'm just going to say that. But I don't want to criticize things. I guess what I'm looking at is I guess I'm feeling that it's ironic. Okay. So I guess let me get into it so you can understand. But again, this is not a criticism of anybody particularly or anything else. I just found there to be some irony in this. The Kenai Peninsula Borough School, this is from Jacob Dye over at the Peninsula Clarion, just FYI, credit where credit's due, okay? The Kenai Peninsula Borough School District's finance department earned 2 prestigious national awards. This was announced on Monday. According to a release from the school district, the finance department earned a Meritorious Budget Award and a Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting. These are both from the Association of School Business Officials International, which apparently is a school business. It's a trade organization of some kind about school finance people. The 2 awards were based on comprehensive reviews of the district's budget and financial reporting, according to the press release. The superintendent was quoted as saying, "These 2 awards together highlight the strength and integrity of our finance department. They demonstrate our team's commitment to ensuring every dollar is accounted for, planned with purpose, and used to support student learning across the Kenai Peninsula." Now, it goes on to talk about how the district has been struggling and grappling with this $17 million deficit that they've had, and about all the different problems and the different voices about transparency and direct spending and all this other kind of stuff. But he basically, the superintendent went on to basically say, "I believe that every organization and government entity at all levels has a responsibility to report accurate, transparent information to its stakeholders and should undergo an annual audit." So again, congratulations to this. I guess when I say that I found it to be ironic, and I'm not trying to underplay their excellence here or anything else that they've done, because a lot of this has to do with the school board, not necessarily with the finance department, right? The finance department basically takes direction from the school board and from the superintendent and does what they're told. But the borough's finance department had earned both of those awards, one for transparency and one for excellence in financial reporting and all this kind of stuff. But I guess what I found to be slightly ironic is that they had just literally the next day, they finalized their budget for the Kenai Peninsula Borough School District with deep cuts to different activities and programs and classrooms and everything else. And so at the same time, their finance department is getting kudos and accolades from their peers on, being transparent and doing the right thing and everything else. The school district seems to still be grappling with the simple truth that you have fewer students today than you did in the past, and you are expected to have fewer students tomorrow than you do today, and yet you continue to act as if, in fact, one of the quotes out of this story talking about the school board finalizing the budget with these deep cuts, one of the quotes out of it is that, I'm looking for it right now, the budget for the coming year, according to board president Zen Kelly, has $9 million less in it than the district's budget from last year. To which I would say, okay, all right, I understand that number. I understand that it's $9 million less. How many students? Now, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself because this was the next sentence. Has $9 million less than the district's budget from last year. That drop means fewer staff and fewer teachers doing the same task of educating children across the Kenai Peninsula. But you know what's interesting in that sentence? That drop means fewer staff and fewer teachers doing the same task. Are they educating the same amount of students or fewer students? Because if you said fewer and fewer and fewer, people would be like, well, yeah, of course it would take fewer staff and fewer teachers to do the same task of teaching fewer students. But somehow that last fewer was not included in the sentence. right? The drop means fewer staff and fewer teachers doing the same work of educating fewer children. I mean, just children. It's just educating children. It doesn't say fewer children, although based on the enrollment numbers, I'm assuming it's fewer children. But that headline doesn't hit as hard. That phraseology doesn't hit as hard as the fewer and fewer, right? But this was the $9 million less in the district's budget than last year. Well, yes, again, how many fewer students do you have this year from last year? And how many students are again, I'm not saying that I am saying that there's a direct correlation. I was going to try and soft sell it, but that's the thing. You know what's going on. Multiple members of the board said they were frustrated by the state's failure to fund education and the systems that left the district without a clear answer on revenue. You guys could have planned this months in advance, and the state has been funding education, and just because it was not guaranteed up to a certain point. There was Bernadette Wilson had a meet and greet yesterday, and I stumbled into the meet and greet while I was there in Soldotna talking to different clients, and there were some interesting points that were raised by some of the people who attended and by Bernadette and others. But one of the things that was discussed was, why don't we, and I think even Ben Carpenter mentioned it yesterday. Why do we have budgetary requests from the, if they can't figure out how to put together a budget on their own, and maybe we need to be doing this differently. At the if the board members of the school board are frustrated by the state's quote unquote failure to fund education, although we spent $2.7 billion on education in this state, they're just, they didn't get it the way that they wanted it. They didn't get it in the stable form that they wanted. They may have to have some guesswork. And of course, they're not planning for a decline. They're always planning on holding it at the current level of spending or more. I guess that's what really gets me about this whole thing. And I know we've been all over this education thing, and I feel like I'm repeating myself all the time on this. And so I guess I'm apologizing for repeating myself, but damn it, somebody's got to listen out there. As each school district is struggling, the overall enrollment across the state continues to decline. And because we fund our schools on a per student basis based on the number of students that attend a given school, because the enrollment is declining, you can expect that the overall funding is going to decrease. Now, granted, some of the costs are going to continue to increase because of inflationary factors and some of the other things, but you can't just keep assuming as a school board that you're going to get more just because of inflation or anything else. You've got to start planning for the worst and hoping for the best, instead of basing all of your pie on the sky on what's the maximum I can get. And then if I don't get that, then I start squawking that the state has failed to fund education. I mean, again, Bob Griffin's thing, we're spending $28,000 for every student on average in the regular brick and mortar schools, excluding the homeschooling and the correspondence schooling. $28,000. Are you telling me that you can't educate a kid for $28,000 in this state? And like I said, I keep feeling like, but the bottom line is, that enrollment is down. That enrollment is going to continue. It's projected to continue to decline. On top of that, it's not just regular decline. We've now seen an acceleration in that decline, and we've seen an acceleration in enrollment in alternative forms of schooling, be it correspondence or charter schools or allotments-based schooling or just regular old homeschooling. We're seeing that accelerating, which ought to tell the districts and the powers that be something, but they're just not acknowledging it. They don't want to, there was no self-analysis as to what are we doing wrong here? And there's no self-analysis as to why they are failing with their current educational outcomes either. They seem to be in full-on avoidance mode of all these questions. So while I congratulate the finance department at the KPBSD for their transparent awards and everything else, again, remember, they're not making the decisions. They're executing the plan that's being put together by the school board. Again, I call on the school board here and in Fairbanks and in the Mat-Su and in the Anchorage area. I call on all the school boards to start planning for the worst and hoping for the best, meaning you guys know you're going to have a decline in enrollment, so start factoring your budgets based on that, which means you're probably going to have to cut more schools, cut more overhead, reduce the administrative cost. I mean, we need to start looking at all those things instead of just saying the state has failed to pay its kick on again, $28,000 per student seems like that's a pretty significant chunk. That's what we're spending right now. All right, we got to go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio will return with more right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Good morning, my friends. Hello. All right. Had to wait for the dishwasher to finish so I could get my Duke's mug, says Brian. Coffee just tastes better in that thing, doesn't it? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Good morning. Oh, I really want a cup of coffee right now. Was it a beer mug? No, it's got my beard on it. It's a whole thing. Chris says, don't confuse the bean counters with the district management. I mean, I understand. I told that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to be clear and delineate that I found some irony in the fact that the finance department was getting these awards, but they were just executing the direction that the school district was trying, you know what I mean? There was some irony there, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah. My takeaway from these discussions is that the reduced students has never been contemplated. It is a do not compute moment. Well, I mean, it's exactly what I'm saying. They are not accounting for in their planning. It's like they're trying to get more per student to offset that there are fewer students coming in to begin with. It's interesting. It's an interesting conundrum for sure. They create their own struggles. Remember the blue screen of death on the computer? That's the look you get when you present actual facts. What kind of math is Duke's using? Is it not the same as the school districts use? Let's see. Yes, it does. Michael, the ones demanding the increased spend for less students are the same ones who think that men can be women. No way people that deluded can ever come to grips with reality. Maybe the state will call me again like they did in 1998, says Harold. After all, the regs to focus the state entitlement on educations went into my trash can. Harold, I wish they'd call you. I really do. I really wish they did. It would be good. How was visiting with Bernadette yesterday? It was interesting. It was definitely interesting. Small crowd, good chance to hear what she had to say. Good scone. I had a good scone at the same time, so it's great. The way everything is going, students are going to be at home or private charter schools, signs of the future. Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see more and more. I think the way we're educating is changing fast enough that the education system can't adapt quickly enough at this point. That's part of the problem. They cannot adapt quickly enough at this point to make it all happen. 28,000 is not being spent on the students. It's being spent on school district administration. Well, no, but it's a per student spend. I'm not saying it's being spent directly on education. I mean, I think that's the same point that Harold was making, is that the money's not making it into the classroom. It's, yeah. I have a little brown on my nose. What? The school district is like a restaurant that serves horrible food and hires more hostesses to fix the problem instead of serving something palatable. No scones left behind. No, there was no scones left behind. It was delicious. It was a good time. Good time was had by all. All right, where are we at? We are 30 seconds out. And I don't know why my thing stopped dinging again. So it is what it is. Let's continue to move ahead, shall we? The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Let's do this thing. You ready? Here we go. 4, 3, 2.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
All right. So I guess I forgot to tell you about the rest of this, because this is very typical of most of the local reporting on school district issues and cuts and things like that. Now, here in the KPBSD, there's a lot of things that are connected to the spending in the schools. Now that they have cut, they had a $17 million deficit. And so they had to figure out a way to make it happen. So the article by Jacob Dye over at the Clarion goes on to basically outline everything that has had to change. They increased in the staffing ratio at each of the district schools. So they increased, I don't know when they said increase the staffing ratio, but it created a reduction. I don't know exactly what they mean by that, but apparently they increased. Did they reduce the number of staff? The ratios change? I don't know. They said they're saving $2.4 million in teacher salaries and benefits by doing that. There were cuts to distant education. There were cuts to elementary school counselors, programmatic staffing, theater technicians, Quest teachers, and the Kenai Peninsula Middle College. Student support liaisons were eliminated. I don't know what half of these positions are. Okay. So I just want to throw that out there to begin with. I don't know what a Quest teacher is. And I guess I should educate myself specifically on that one. But, programmatic staffing, elementary school counselors. I never had a school counselor until there was like one guidance counselor, I think, in high school, maybe two. Maybe when I was going to high school, I think there was one or two guidance counselors. That was it. Why do you have guidance counselors in our school? Anyway, cuts to distant education, elementary school counselors, programmatic staffing, theater technicians. Now, I'm all for drama to be taught in the schools. I enjoyed that myself. I thought it was a great outlet outside of my academic stuff. It was a great thing to do, and it really brought, made me a well-rounded person, I guess I should say. But I guess my question is, I also participated in lots of things that were going on with like Fairbanks Light Opera Theater, which is an all volunteer thing. Do we have to pay for, does it have to be something that the school district pays for? Are they drama teachers or are they theater technicians? I'm honestly asking. I have no idea. Anyway, what is a Quest teacher? Student support liaisons are eliminated. Pool managers and library aides will see their days reduced. Funding for pools at Susan B. English School and Anilchik School is cut. Stipends for all sports and activities for football and to Battle of the Books are slashed in half. Bus routes will be cut. Of course, Nikolaev's school was cut completely. They shut it down. So I guess to me, I look at this and I go, okay, well, that's a good start. Right? I look at this and I go, okay, I know Fairbanks, they have cut most of their sports and activities have been cut to basically nothing, that they are mostly parent funded now, which I support that idea. Funding for the pools, I would hope that local communities would be stepping up and doing that. There was a group that tried to testify that the Seldovia and Ninilchik pools, both of which have lost their funding in the new budget, that they were hoping that they would be able to preserve some of that stuff. But to restore the pools to Ninilchik and Seldovia, according to Zen Kelly, would cost $200,000. That's 2 staff members, 2 teachers somewhere in the district. And they said communities will need to find their own support for their own priorities. So the board is calling on communities to step in and to fund pools and funding for sports and activities and some of these other things. He said you can fundraise for those things. You could fundraise to send the basketball team to wherever. You can't fundraise for a science teacher, which, that's pretty brilliant. That makes a lot of sense. But again, I look at this and I think we should have been talking about this and a lot of these things a lot earlier and acknowledging that there's going to be less from the very beginning. That would have solved a lot of this problem. All right, I want to get off this topic because again, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse on this whole education thing. And I know it's important. And I know what I'm trying to do is change people's ideology and the way that they think of the direction that they're thinking about this. Now, Bernadette said something very interesting yesterday at this meet and greet, which which kind of made me think. Now, I've been all for backpack funding, for following the student rather than following the whole the school or the seat in the school kind of thing. But it's that's where the focus should be. The focus should be on the student in general, not on the specific schools. And it really made me think about that, because if we were focusing on student outcomes and we were focusing on the money going to each student, then the student would have the opportunity to choose the best thing for them, whether that was a specialty course, correspondence, brick and mortar, pen, learning pod, whatever it is, they would have the opportunity to think. But we just need to fundamentally change the way we think about this stuff. I think that's the bottom line. We need to fundamentally change about how we're thinking about this. The funding should just follow the student, and then the student or the student's parent can make the decision as to where that student goes, and that would cause more competition to be available for everybody. I mean, they would really literally have to compete more they'd have to deliver to be able to be more competitive, to be able to make that happen. I know some people are losing their minds over that, but we'll see. No, Chris said, no, it's not a good start. When I said that, cutting a lot of that stuff was a good start. How much money was saved by cutting Battle of the Books? I don't know. How much money was saved by cutting half out of the sports program? I mean, they said $200,000 of what was saved by cutting some of the pool stuff. Okay. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't know, but anything is a good start at that point. The trimming back of that stuff is enough. You got the kid on the right track, and when the kid was graduation president, okay, so leverage. Yeah, all right. It's it's a frustrating thing to see all these things come in, but the bottom line is we should be paying attention to the outcome of the education, not just getting the kids in the classroom, not just having them and counting the butts in the seats, but what is the actual outcome of it in the long run? Because again, as I mentioned earlier, that seems to be the one thing that they don't want to really do any self-analysis or pay attention to on that. All right. I'm going to get off this topic. I'm going to get off this topic, and we're going to continue. I had to laugh because this is the news cycle basically, playing itself. This is the whole thing about did you watch the whole thing about this whole Bear Alcatraz deal? This is the news media basically clickbaiting itself. And so for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, they have the alligator Alcatraz down in Florida, right? That was the which was the detention facility that was put together down there in the big nature preserve in Florida, and it got so much buzz that there was a story that Newsweek wrote that was referred to on an interview on Fox News by Laura Ingraham. She did an interview of Stephen Miller, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, and so in the interview, Ingraham and Miller praised Florida for building this new ICE facility, and then Miller said that he had pitched all the Republican governors to build similar ICE detention facilities. He said we wanted every governor of a red state, and if you're watching tonight, pick up the phone, call DHS, and work with us to build facilities in your state. And Ingraham had said Fox had reached out to states, including Alaska, for comment, and said that Alaska told us we don't have alligators, but we have lots of bears. However, they aren't aware of any plans for an Alaska version. I said Bear Alcatraz. She laughed, chuckling. Well, apparently Newsweek ran with the fact that this then turned around to saying Alaska was building Bear Alcatraz. I mean, this is just, you can't make this stuff up. This is the self-licking ice cream cone that is the news media. Reporting on a story that was reported on something else that turns out that it wasn't, the whole thing was built on a house of cards. And, it really wasn't a story. But no, the answer, the governor's office was asked by Fox News if there was any such plans to build a detention facility like the one in Florida. And the answer was no. Although, I mean, there are plenty of islands in the Aleutian chain. I mean, we could build one. Doesn't necessarily have to have bears on it, right? I mean, we could put them on Amelia Island out there, or off of Adak, or we could, there's places that we could put them, no problem. If you really were looking for a place, we've got islands. We could airdrop them some food and some porta potties, and let us know how that works out for them. Some tents. If you want to do it. Yeah, M. Chitka. You could send them to Ann Chitka. That's for sure. Anyway, I had to laugh because, again, this is the news media playing itself, right? Oh, that was a story that was not okay, never mind. All right, we got one final segment coming up, and I got these good news stories. So I do want to get to some of these good news stories. I have one other story that I might get to. We'll see how I feel about it here on the other side. All right, we got to go. Back with more. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes on Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Hello. Since bears hibernate. Oh my God, Harold. Come on, seriously, dude. Are you buying your own press at this point? Are you really buying your own press? Anyway. Let's see. One of the largest spends in any school district is for health insurance. Districts need to have the ability to put employees on the state's health insurance plan. I mean, yeah, that would have, we talked about it. I mean, even Harold has agreed. The consolidation of school districts makes sense, right? I mean, we've all come to agree on that, but they just can't. We just can't do. They can't do it. Just can't do it. You are not an adult. You're not required by the Constitution of your state. We need to follow the Constitution. Okay. Wow. You guys, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get caught. Okay. I'm now finally back to where I first read Chris's comment. All right. They now have more to cut in Fairbanks School District for not working with the governor on policy, says Miguel. Chris says they cut music classes. They don't have a marching band in the whole state. Okay, well, but I think music is, I think it's important, but, again, questions. Trade school graduates such as electricians, plumbers, etc., making more than those with a PhD. Just saying. Well, yeah, a lot of the trades, they're hungry for people, and you can kind of write your own ticket there right now. We talk an awful lot about funding and student performance. Has anyone taken a look at parent and student expectations? Well, that's, yeah. Yeah. I believe that it was, I believe that those expectations should be that you can graduate reading, writing, and arithmetic, and you could do the 3 R's, and you can pass a basic entrance exam to a college. I guess that was my expectation. Politicians need to get out of the idea that they have anything to offer for education. Leave it to the educators who have the education experience and passions to teach. That's a great idea, Harold. That's like a leaving it to the experts kind of thing. But the problem is that politicians also have to basically account for all the money, because we all know that any expert in any field will always say the more money, the barrier, right? So there's always got to be somebody who's the no man on the other side. That's it, Okay. Drop the any to begin with. We have our own Wolf Alcatraz. And we go thing. Alcatraz. Kodiak would be a great place. Kiskatraz. Oh man, that would be a horrible thing. Okay. The Supreme Court just gave Newsom the big middle finger when they voted the state couldn't get rid of gas cars. It was my idea in 1999. Harold said he was cool with consolidating schools overhead before it was cool to consolidate school districts overhead. I was patting you on the back. We agree with you. Apparently, consolidation does not make sense to House Democrats. I mean, are we saving money or what are we doing? Let's see. Those two posts, the two posts were meant to be taken together. The meeting was lost as a result. Which two posts? Okay, I'm going to go back real quick here. Okay. I'm sorry, I missed the second part. We talk an awful lot about funding student performance. Has anyone taken a look at parent and student expectations, specifically the parental and pupil duties? No, we've talked about it, but you're right. There is a tremendous amount of responsibility on the parental side of that equation as well, that many parents are not taking. I agree, Fat Ray. I agree. It's a problem. Faux show. For sure. Okay. What? I love it. Brian just perfect quote. An expert is a man who has made all the mistakes which can be made in a narrow field. That's true. It's true. I thought we were going to do biscuits, said Harold. I mean, biscuits are pretty easy, Harold. Do you really need to do biscuits? Now, maybe sourdough?
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke show.
Okay. I want to get to the good. Let me close some of these things because I got a bazillion windows open here. So let me close some of these because we've already gone over some of this stuff, and it's kind of interesting as to where we're going and what's going on. Have you been watching the attack ads that have been popping up? I mean, I don't know if any of you watch the interwebs, right? But if you have watched any YouTube channel or OTT, like the amount of advertising that has been going on against Begich and Sullivan and Murkowski in so many ways has just, it's mind-blowing, the amount of money. Well, it's only going to get worse from here, right? Because we got the 2026 elections coming up for Dan Sullivan. The 2020, he's on the hot seat for the 2026 election cycle. And Indivisible Alaska, which is a political arm of the Indivisible movement, which is it's the group that seeks to basically apply pressure on high-profile Republicans, and it's all part of that Indivisible network, which is they want to resist the Trump agenda, right? They want to resist They're now a nationwide activist group with chapters in all 50 states. And so Indivisible Alaska has just filed with the FEC and say they are spending over $15,000 on digital ads opposing Dan Sullivan. And I mean, you've seen it. You can't watch a YouTube channel or a video for more than a few minutes without seeing some kind of attack ad, basically saying that, oh, they're giving tax breaks for billionaires and they're taking all the health care away from people and they will die. I mean, this is the story, right? 1 in 3 Alaskans are on Medicaid and half the children. Well, that's part of your problem. There's your problem right there. How is that? And what was the other headline that I saw earlier? That I was just like, this is the headline? To keep Medicaid, mom caring for disabled adult son faces this prospect of proving she works. Okay. That's called life, but okay. But these are the headlines that you keep seeing all over the place, right? This is the stuff that you keep seeing all over the place. And so anyway, I just, get ready is what I'm saying. Buckle up, Buttercup, because this is what's happening. The FEC says, according to the disclosure, this Indivisible Action Group has like $1.5 million of cash on hand, and they're going to be drilling ahead of the 2026 election against all different kinds of politicians. So I expect we're going to see a lot more of those ads here in Alaska over the next 18 months. So buckle up is what I'm saying. Buckle up, Buttercup. Here it comes. It's coming down. It's coming down the pike here. All right. So good news. I get some good news here. First and foremost, there's an interesting trial for anybody who has congenital hearing deafness. If you have congenital deafness or know of anybody, there is a trial investigating the potential for gene therapy to correct the deafness in children and young adults. And this study it had 10 participants in this initial study. And after the initial trial, all 10 participants gained the ability to hear and allowed them to hear the sound of falling rains or their mother's voice or whatever for the first time. The younger patients, especially those between the ages of 5 and 8, responded best to the treatment. One of the participants, a 7-year-old girl, quickly recovered almost all of her hearing and was able to hold daily conversations with her mothers 4 months afterwards. So roughly there's about 200,000 people worldwide who are deaf due to a mutation in a gene called OTOF, which was the target of this therapy. The mutation causes a deficiency of the protein otoferlin, which plays a part in transmitting the auditory signals to the brain. So what they did was they used this gene therapy. They used a synthetic adeno-associated virus to deliver a functional version of the gene to the inner ear. And the hearing improved in all 10 patients aged between 1 year old and 24 years old. And the treatment was well tolerated. So now they're going to do a 6-month follow-up, and it showed considerable hearing improvement in all participants, with the average volume of perceptible sound improving from 106 decibels, meaning it had to be that loud for them to hear it, to 52, which is the sound of my voice. So this is some super cool stuff. The next part of the trial will be a 5 to 10 year follow-up to see how long the OTOF gene therapy lasts. So now they're just moving forward. But again, 10 out of 10 responded. That's some good news. And of course, we probably all heard about Scott Ruskin. Scott Ruskin is the Coast Guard swimmer. He's the rescue swimmer that a native of New Jersey who was deployed to the Texas flooding area and Camp Mystic. And I got to say, this guy seems like a super humble and just super cool. So they tell the story that he said, they were first deployed out there. And he said what should have been a 1-hour flight into the landing zone near this Camp Mystic took about 7 to 8 hours due to the severe weather, some of the worst flying that they'd ever had to deal with, according to Ruskin. After 4 attempts to land, he made it into Camp Mystic alone, with his team needed elsewhere to perform other rescues. He said, we heard there were about 200 campers there and they were in need for an airlift. He said there was no other way to get them out. Bridges were gone. Roadways were gone. The water was coming up too high for rescue boats. So he said he led the children, about 10 to 15 at a time, to Army helicopters ready to take them to higher ground. He says, these guys are heroic, the helicopter pilots, and they're dealing with some of the worst times of their lives. And he said the kids were staying strong and they helped inspire me to kind of get in there and help them out. And he said, many have exalted Ruskin's efforts, including the Department of Homeland Security Director, Kristi Noem. But he just said, and this is what really got me, he's like, I'm just a dude. I chose to enlist in the Coast Guard. Everyone is able to do this. Anyone's able to do this job. If you raise your right hand to do it, I'm just happy I was given the opportunity to help these people out. I mean, this guy was like super, super humble. And everything that I've seen of him is that he's just like, we just needed to do it. He said, like, anybody could do this job. He said, that's what I'm here. He goes, I'm not a hero. I was just doing what I was supposed to do, which was pretty impressive. It's a pretty impressive response there. So again, Scott Ruskin, good egg. Let's just put it that way. He's a good egg, 100%. So that's your good news. I had one more story about pirate ships that were discovered off the Madagascar coast, but I'll have to save that one for later. It's a good one. It's a good one, but we're going to save that one for down the road because we are up against the break. And we've got Sarah Vance going to be joining us here shortly. Sarah Vance will be joining us here. All right, we're going to be back. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Hour 2 dead ahead. We'll return right after this. Robert just said, I just noticed Mike has a face tan. Yeah, I came back from Seldovia and I never get sunburned. I lived in Hawaii. I did it. The one time I got sunburned is when I went to Guam and I got cooked, man. I got cooked. Anyway, but I came back from Seldovia after doing the 4th of July and I was like, ooh, that's a little tender. That's a little hot. What's going on? I got a lot of sun in Seldovia. I mean, it was brilliant out there in Seldovia. It was brilliant. So anyway, we loved it. Let's continue on here. Let's get caught up with everything else. Where is I guess I better answer my text messages because okay. Okay. Same link as last time. Okay. Good enough. I should go get a cup of coffee is what I should do. So what I should do is go get a cup of coffee. You guys are all talking amongst yourselves. Let me scroll backwards here. Yeah, Fat Ray says Dan hasn't met. Hello, come on. Dan hasn't met a tax dollar he didn't want to spend. It's hard for me to be very enthusiastic about him. I mean, right? There's like the only person that I am even quasi supportive of at this point is Nick. That's it. I pick Nick. That's the only one at this point, and just because we're trying to watch his track record. Seems to be doing okay so far, but yeah, Dan Sullivan, not that impressed with the track record. It's just me. It's not you, it's me. Okay. All right, let's see. I think Windows has created ADD. Is that what it is? My browser has an ad blocker. I don't see ads on YouTube. Well, that's true. I guess I should clarify. I only see the ads when I'm watching YouTube on my television, because some of us have some of us have YouTube on our. That's where we watch the TV. Okay. Sorry, messing with it. Okay. Let's see. Regional manager. Blah 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 blah. Those complaining, when you ask them if they've read the Medicare bill, they say no, and yet they are on the attack already. Okay. With the Supreme Court paving the way for massive federal layoffs, expect Alaska to take a huge hit in the federal Fedora's workforce. I think he means the federal workforce. Yeah. I'm not too worried about it at this point. Illegal. You guys are all over the place. Drill, baby, drill. Okay. Because they have been indoctrinated by school districts and the NEA, it is not the responsibility of parents to be involved. In fact, many schools don't want parents involved in their children. Well, that again, they can wish all they want that the parents don't get involved. The parents need to be involved. That's the point. But you are right, is that there is some areas out there where they don't want you to, they don't want you to be messing with any of that. Openly admitting they're getting all this living. I don't know where people are seeing the videos. Miguel's talking about social media videos where people are driving around Mercedeses and stuff like that and openly admitting that they're living off of welfare. I know I've heard about some of this stuff anecdotally. I've never seen some of these videos, but it does happen, I guess. Let's see here. Coast Guard swimmers depopulate. Get some coffee. Go get coffee. Terry told me that 5 minutes ago. Go get coffee. That's how fast it's been. I should go get coffee. I need a cup of coffee. Okay. Mike, you're supposed to wear a hat outside in the sun all day. I know, but I'm not a huge hat fan. But I will tell you after that, I will be I'm got a little bit of peeling there too, don't I? I guess I do. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, next time I will be wearing a hat. That's for sure. For sure. Sullivan has become a true politician. Don't trust the guy, says Terry. Well, yeah. Yeah. Speaking of not wanting to work, I seen one yesterday. Gal says, I wasn't put on earth to work. Good grief. I mean, you weren't? What were you put on earth to do? Lay around and do nothing? Anyway, I see that Sarah is now in the back of the thing. Are you there?
I'm here.
You can hear me? Okay. I can hear you. You can hear me. Good. We're 20 seconds out. Are you all ready? Just not. Okay. All right. All right. Here we go. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a hot mess today. Here we go.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
And live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the great state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the program. It is Thursday. There we go. Thursday. Tomorrow is Friday. I can count too. I mean, I can tell you that the Friday is after Thursday and that, we got it going on. Joining us this morning here in hour 2 is State Rep Sarah Vance. We just finished up with a bunch of headlines and some other stuff, but now let's dive back into this here and get a chance to talk with her about, well, we got, we got vetoes, we got special sessions, we got session subjects and topics, we've got there's all kinds of things to talk about here. So let's get started, shall we? And dive right into it and bring Representative Sarah Vance up onto the screen right now. See what she has to say. Good morning, Rep. How are you doing?
Good morning. Doing well.
Doing well. It's so exciting. It's a beautiful Thursday, and you're ready. She got a cup of Joe in her hands, so it doesn't get much better than that. All right. So I guess first and foremost, we should check in how you've been doing since the end of the session and everything. You get a chance to get with the fam and do the things and do all that kind of stuff. Great opportunity to reconnect.
Yes, we just got back from a family trip to Illinois, hanging out with Grandma and Grandpa on the Vance family farm that's been in their family for more than 100 years.
Wow. So that was a back to nature kind of thing, enjoying yourselves and getting back. You guys are just getting back now. All right. So, we had this, we had this whole thing that came about. The session was over. The governor hadn't made his vetoes yet. Now he's made the vetoes, and I don't think we've talked since then. So what was your take overall on the governor's fiduciary responsibility? Has he executed it properly? Do you support the vetoes that he did? It could be all, could be none, could be some. What's your take here?
Oh, I think I feel very similar to a lot of other members that have a mixed emotions about some of the vetoes that he did. I was a little surprised because usually he cuts about $200 million from the budget, and he didn't cut that much this time. I think, if I remember correctly, it was about $140 million. Yep. But he did so, looking forward at the budget and, made the justifications that he did. Of course, the special session, I've been through this numerous times. August is not an unusual time to call a special session, and everyone knows that the governor was really hoping for true education policy to come out of the legislative session. So I'm not surprised that he's called one. We were really thinking that a session would have been immediately after the legislative session. And we thought, we're in the clear. We won't see each other until January. And I think we were a little surprised at the timing, but he's moving within his right, and I gotta give him kudos for not giving up.
Yeah, no, I thought it was interesting. And quite honestly, I did not expect the governor to, I did not expect him to call a special session. I thought with all the talk and everything else that this would probably just not happen, right? That everybody was going to be out. There wasn't any real political will, but in a way, it's kind of brilliant because it forces the issue sooner rather than later, early, and even if he loses, he wins, because even if they are able to override his veto now, they can't come back in, next year, mid next year, and say, well, remember back when, because then it'll be 18 months ago and everybody's got a really short memory. And so, whereas if they'd done it in January, it would have been a lot easier and they would have had a win to stand on to kind of lead into the session to give them momentum. So he's kind of short circuited that whole thing one way or the other.
I agree. And that's something that, people have been completely distracted with the conversation about the vetoes and, are you going to go to session? Are you not going to go to session? Where the focus should be on the policy. And that's what the governor's trying to do. And I know that he created a lot of controversy around asking the Republicans not to show up until day 6. And he said, they're going to stay focused completely on the vetoes and try to gavel out. But if you come on day 6 ready to work on policy, that's how we can show Alaskans we're serious, that we want true reform. And I agree, because we've seen the veto show before and the overrides, and Alaskans haven't given up on making strides in the reform to help our students succeed. And I agree with the governor. We should keep trying.
It's it's super interesting that that's the first time I've ever seen that kind of the quiet part out loud, where they're like, just don't show up. And you're like, wait, I know that sometimes that happens behind the scenes, but nobody just makes a press conference to say, just don't show up. That's kind of a bold move. I mean, in that regard, don't you think? I mean, that's kind of again, saying the quiet part out loud.
Hey, it's full transparency. He doesn't want to be overridden again. And, he's got to try. But the reality is that, we can disagree and fine tune policy with the governor all day long, because we're separate branches. He's the executive branch. We're the legislative. We're supposed to have differences and work that out. But when it comes to strategy on how to achieve our shared goals, I think it's appropriate to follow the governor's lead on this. He called the special session and he said, hey, Republicans, don't show up till day 6. Let's stay focused. I don't know why people are losing their minds. Like you said, this is a brilliant strategy, and it's an opportunity to take back the narrative from the left. This is showing we care about our students and we want to do the work now.
Right. Well, and I think that Kevin makes a valid point too. Kevin in the chat room says, keep in mind that this veto is only $200 per child for this year. Next year, the BSA will be $700 unless he vetoes it again. So, I mean, this is a kind of a one-time thing unless they can get it turned around. And of course, what I find interesting, and you can comment on this, I mean, why are the people so antithetic? Why is there so much pushback about any policy being invoked in this? Because I know they paid some lip service to the policies and some of the things, but they didn't get what the governor had his own bill. The governor put the bill in there. They sat on it. They squashed it. He said, I will vote for it. I'll give you the $700. All I want is my policies. And they all basically said no. And they gave him the finger, on the way through. Why? Give me your take on what's going on with that.
Oh, it's no secret. The NEA elected themselves a majority, and you can go to their Alaska NEA Facebook page and it shows who they endorsed and who they helped get elected. And NEA's goal is to maintain the status quo in Alaska. They want all the money going to brick and mortar schools and money that they can help control. And that means that they don't want to tip the scale to help balance the act towards charter schools and homeschools, which are public schools. And when we start to talk about policy and the fact that our brick and mortar schools have been losing students year after year after year, it's like pulling back the rug on the truth. And that's what they don't want us to talk about.
And we were just discussing this idea that somehow something's fundamentally going to have to change in education, because we have a continual decline in enrollment. And yet the planning from the school district side, from the school board side, and everything else is, well, we need more money because of inflation and everything, but you have fewer students. So you can't really have more money because you have fewer students, and you keep planning on like you're going to get more money instead of planning for the worst case scenario to say, I know we've got fewer students now. I know we're projected to have fewer students in the future. Maybe we should factor our budgets on what we're expecting to come in versus what we want, the nice to haves versus what's really going to happen. And it seems like none of the school districts are really taking that. Maybe Fairbanks is taking that into account in their newer budgets, but for the most part, they've just been basically saying we need the same or more of what we've been getting before for fewer students, is essentially what they're saying.
Correct. And the other reality is that we have a high student population of homeschoolers. Well, in the Kenai Peninsula Borough School District, half of them are not enrolled with the Kenai Peninsula School Borough. They're enrolled in another program outside of the district. So the question is, if the Kenai Peninsula Borough wants to draw those students back, they could gain another $10 million in funding just by having the homeschool students who live within the district enrolled within the district. So it's a matter of being more competitive and appealing to those families for whatever it is that they need. And that's not happening in a lot of our school districts. So we have to encourage our school board members to continue to think about what it means to serve the parents and the students that we already have.
Well, I mean, because competition is a dirty word. We can't compete. We should all get what we need. And then, everybody should be, mandated to go to where, if they had their way, they wouldn't allow any other programs. Like you said, the NEA, they wouldn't allow any other programs that were beyond their control. All this homeschooling and this allotments and correspondence and charter schools and all this other kind of stuff, they wouldn't allow for any of that if they had their way. But that's people are making decisions and they're making choices. And the one thing that the school district is not asking themselves is, why are people, well, there's several things. Why are people leaving? Why are, what is it, just out migration from the state, or is it out migration from the district? Why is homeschooling and alternative schooling, why is that growing compared to what we're saying? And the biggest one is, why are we failing with 51 out of 53, but 51st out of 53rd position? Why are we failing in that? Nobody is doing any kind of self-analysis on that. There's no, looking inward and saying, what are we doing wrong? It's always outward of, you're just not giving us enough money. That's the thing.
Well, and if you look a few years ago, we passed the Alaska READS Act, and we have seen more reports that it's working. When you look at our kindergartners and the first graders and implementing that program, they have outpaced the national average on their reading proficiency. So it shows that the policy that Dunleavy brought forward a few years ago, that the legislature passed by a very simple majority. I've never seen the Democrats scream louder over a bill than the Alaska READS Act. It's working. It shows that when we pass education reform that helps our students, it actually works. And I know that we have a senator who's working on the Alaska Math Act to help shift that in the right direction to help improve our math scores. We can't continue to ignore the problem by just simply throwing money at it. One of the things that we haven't done a good job of is dissecting this into two different conversations. A lot of people think that when we're talking about education policy and funding, that we're talking about the policy and helping our students succeed. But what the school districts are saying is no, fund schools. Funding schools and funding policy that helps our students are two different things.
I agree, because again, policy is how you craft things and how you direct things. The funding, again, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. If we've got poor policies, it doesn't matter how much money we throw at it, it's not going to work, which is, I think, what we're feeling right now, is what we're, kind of what we're feeling and what we're reaping right now. I find it very interesting. I mean, businesses have to do a little bit of self-analysis. Like, what did we do good this year? What did we do bad? What could we do better on? It's that kind of it's not just, hey, we need to make more money next year, right? We're always trying to do, maybe that's what we want, but we're always asking the question, how do we do that? What do we do better? And if they can't do that kind of self-analysis and look at that and then just say, shut up and give us our money, that's the problem, then they're obviously out of touch, and we need to make some more severe changes maybe in that regard.
Well, we do have the reality that the cost of doing business has increased dramatically since COVID. We've seen that. Energy costs have gone up. Just keeping the lights on has turned into a pretty big deal. And that's really impacted our schools. That's a reality that I want to, the people who are saying, hey, don't ignore the issues that the school districts are facing when it comes to, those fixed costs that have that's beyond their control. We get that. But we need to set those costs aside in a separate category. And I've even recommended that we have them on a separate line item in the budget outside of the base student formula, so that we can see what they look like and address the issue of the cost of energy in Alaska and how it's impacting our schools. Internet, they're using broadband when, Skylink, could be cheaper. And Starlink is cheaper. And we've heard stories about teachers running their own personal line through the window, of the classroom because it's more effective. Why aren't we making those decisions that help us cut the budget and provide a better service outside of the classroom policies? We have to have those discussions at the same time. But it has been simply status quo, give more money when it comes to the conversations that's happening in the legislature.
Sarah Vance is our guest. We're up against the break. We got more coming up. We're going to return here in just a moment. We'll be back with more right after this. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more after this.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show, because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Sarah Vance is our guest. We're doing it right here. The Alaska Reads Act is a perfect example of addressing the symptoms of no classroom mandate and not addressing the lack of mandate to focus the education funding inside the classrooms. I mean, we should be focusing a big chunk of the BSA inside the classroom. There should be a mandate, but it's also working. That's the thing. It's working. So if they won't focus it inside the classroom, the Reads Act is doing what it needs to do. And if Shelley's got a Mathematics Act up next, then, I mean, again, I'm always one for not reinventing the wheel, right? If somebody has gone there before me and done it, how do I do that or improve on what they've done, right? It's like going to Mississippi. They're not spending the most, but they're getting some of the biggest bang for their buck in the country, right? They're spending a lot less than many places, but they're doing leaps. And why aren't we looking at that kind of thing, right? That's what gets my attention.
Part of the Alaska Reads Act was some of the things that was adopted, from that state. And we need to give it some time to get rolling, but we need to do more of it, more classroom outcome focused policy, as well as the things that can help reduce the spend, like my healthcare pooling bill that can pool the cost of healthcare and reduce millions of dollars for the districts. And that's something that this majority punted. And they said, oh, well, we'll talk about it in our working group. And they could have talked about it during the legislative session. And, it just is absolutely frustrating that it's just more delay.
Well, because again, it's protectionism, right? The whole idea behind consolidation is you've got 58 districts, each with their own, superintendent, assistant superintendent, secretary. I mean, they're just the duplication of, 58 power structures lined out side by side. And you could consolidate them all down to, I don't know, 8, a dozen, pick a number, less than 58. And you would all of a sudden consolidate all those down, and you would streamline the whole system. Not to mention the fact that if you could pool all the insurance plans and everything else, that was another $54 million or something like that. So, I mean, you could do all those things, but see, it's protectionism. They don't want anybody to lose their jobs or do anything else. So we'll just keep going with the status quo, even though it doesn't actually help anything except it helps to spend the money. That's what it does.
I'm hoping that there's going to be a wind of change for the healthcare pooling bill, because our school districts are just really facing some extraordinary cost when it comes to, healthcare premiums and the burden that it has on those working families. That's something's got to break at some point. And I know that within our school district, for a family, it's $1,000 a month premium. And I have no idea how a family, working family, can bear that. So I'm going to continue to beat the drum on this bill. I've worked with the Department of Administration to say, help me make the bill better. What will work? And so we've simplified it a little bit more. And this year I introduced a sponsor substitute with some of those recommendations. And I'm hoping that we can talk about it in this next special session.
Well, it sure would be nice, because again, we know that healthcare costs are some of the biggest drivers of everything that's going on out there. And again, what was it? It was 54 million. Wasn't that the saving that you had thrown around when they first started talking about consolidating the healthcare? Wasn't it that much, or combining it, pooling it?
No, it was actually more. Years ago, if every school district consolidated with the state of Alaska's healthcare plan, they saw that it could save up to $200 million a year. However, a lot has changed. I don't want people thinking that that's the number, because it's really an unknown right now. Healthcare plans, get renewed and change every 4 years. However, last term, the Kenai Peninsula School Borough estimated they could save $6 to $8 million a year based on premiums. And that's just a simple comparison with the numbers at the time. So if just our school district could save that, that's significant.
Here we go. Jumping back into it, the Michael Duke Show.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Okay. Sarah Vance is our guest. We were just talking about, if you want to save some money, one of the ways you could do it, we were talking about pooling the healthcare. We were talking about consolidation of the school districts, which is a whole nother deal. That's a big chunk of money that could be saved. But the easier one would be just to pool all the healthcare together, which to me, I would have thought, well, you aren't doing this already? I mean, because you've got all these different employees. They're all working for the state, essentially. They're all working for government. Why wouldn't you pool all these employees together to get that And you were saying that you don't have any current numbers, but previous numbers meant, with previous health plans and stuff, said we could save up to $200 million a year. That's not an insignificant amount of money. I mean, if we could save that kind of money, why? What's the hubbub, bub? What's the pushback here? What's going on?
Well, what I was told when I first introduced the bill years ago is that if we are saving that much money, then that means someone else out there is losing that much money. So it's a matter of control and power in lining people's pockets. So at some point, we have to look at, how many people are we losing? How many employees and teachers are we losing because they simply need a better healthcare plan? And it turns out that there's quite a few. That is a big decision factor when we're retaining and recruiting teachers is, hey, is this healthcare plan for my family going to be affordable? Because that's part of the overall, retirement package, incentive package.
Right.
And, when school districts are looking at deficits, they're looking at, the pressure that they have to cut administrative costs, and they have to find someone who can go out in the marketplace and have the knowledge to search for a good medical plan for their small school district. That's a big deal. So the beauty of the healthcare pooling bill is that it not only saves the state money, it saves the school districts and those families money. That's the win. It saves the school districts money and the families because they would have a comparable or better healthcare plan, because the state of Alaska healthcare plan currently is very good and very competitive. So this would allow, reducing administrative burden and the cost of those families. So it's definitely a win-win. And think about the REAA, the schools that are smaller out in rural Alaska who maybe don't have a borough that contributes to their revenue stream. They are in desperate need for this type of plan.
You bring up the rural schools, and one of the big thing that keeps popping up in discussions lately, it seems like, is a discussion on what is going on with the maintenance of a lot of these schools, especially the rural ones. There was a number that was being floated around that, what is it? It's hundreds of millions of dollars in deferred maintenance on some of these schools that I keep having to ask the question, who's in charge of what's going on with these schools? Is it the districts? Is it the state? And if they should have been upkeeping these buildings all this time, who is going to mandate that gets done now? That's, what's going on with that?
That was a large topic of the conversation this year in the legislature, is how to prioritize those requests, because a lot of the smaller schools don't have the lobby to help get their projects prioritized, and they don't have many of them lack the expertise to really articulate the need, because you have to have assessments and do the right paperwork and things like that. And so they just need our help because they are being neglected. And that is the responsibility of the local REAA school board, Regional Education Advisory. Kevin, help me. I forget the full acronym, but they do have their local representation, but ultimately it's the state's responsibility because they are unorganized boroughs.
Well, it would seem that you would have a mandate that if you have used taxpayer money to build a facility, that you should have a plan for maintaining that facility. You shouldn't necessarily have to rely on some bureaucrat to file a proper piece of paperwork to know that, the state owns the facility, right? This is a state-owned building that you just built it for $5 million or $10 million or $15 million. And that in 5 years, it's going to need to have the roof patched or the paint redone or a boiler update or whatever. Why are these things not baked into it? Why do we keep coming back to say, oh, well, we were going to spend that money on that, but we had some other programs that were more important at the time. And so now the roof's peeling off this place and it's leaking everywhere and it's going to be condemned because nobody had a plan? What the hell is going on?
Well, if you look at the deferred maintenance across the state, I think you will be gravely disappointed because with the budget squeeze the past 8 years, we've continued to defer that maintenance that needed to happen to fund other programs that Alaskans said that they have to have all the time. So it's a matter of prioritization. And we have deferred maintenance with the University of Alaska. We have it within our own state facilities and DOT. You look at Fish and Game, and they're asking for more research vessels and planes because they've been deferred maintenance has been neglected. The ferry system, tragic. And here, there's only so much that we can do. So it's kind of all lumped into that same problem of not prioritizing the capital budget like we're supposed to.
Yeah, well, this is, I didn't mean to get quite so heated, but this is a pet peeve of mine. I mean, when I was on the Borough Assembly in Fairbanks, this was the same kind of thing. I'm like, you built these buildings and you had no plan to maintain them, and now they're falling apart, and now you're like, but we've got other you've got to keep these you've got to invest, you built these things, you got to maintain them, you got to update them, you got to upkeep them. Otherwise, it's just money wasted. I mean, this whole thing is, I mean, it's not just flabbergasting. It's wrong. It's morally wrong. You've told the public you're going to take care of these facilities that you built. Where is the maintenance, and why do we keep diverting it to more important, quote unquote? Nothing is more important than taking care of what you currently have. And like you said, most of these places have no local, borough or organization. There are no local tax dollars, so it's all dependent on the state. How in the hell did they get away from actually maintaining these buildings? And in some cases, we just built a few years ago. I mean, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and you're like, and now it's on the verge of being condemned. What is going on?
Well, part of the problem is that Alaska gets a lot of federal money, federal grants for different projects, and they give us that, and then it's the state or the borough's responsibility to maintain them. And we aren't factoring that into our budget when we accept these dollars. And I remember a number of years ago, Dunleavy rejected some federal grants and said, we don't have the match to be able to maintain this or to be able to keep this program going, and people were upset. And he said, this is more than just free money. This is a responsibility that we have to maintain this in the future. And I want to make sure that we can do that. And it's just like buying something I bought it on sale. Well, you didn't have the money for it in the first place.
I say, look at how much money I saved. Look at how much money I saved by buying it on sale. Think about how much money you could have saved by not buying it at all, right?
Right.
I mean, that's the mindset for sure. And somebody just mentioned that there's in the school district, deferred maintenance is causing illnesses. The KPBSD is currently being sued for mold illness. I mean, things like that. I mean, this is some critical stuff. I don't mean to harp on it, but I mean, at some point you got to say, you've just spent X number of millions of dollars building a facility. You probably should, and that was one of the things that we did before I left the assembly, is that we got them to mandate that on the fiscal note, if you proposed building something or anything else, that you had a 10-year fiscal note that showed the maintenance schedule and the amount of money that you were willing to commit to it every year for 10 years. It was obviously non-binding, but it was a document that said, here's how much it would cost each year so that you could make the decision to know, if I was going to build this $5 million building, it was going to cost me $100,000 a year for the next 10 years to maintain it, or whatever it was. And that's important, because if we keep this is what we get. We get this deferred stuff, mold stuff falling down, roofs coming in, and people going, how come we can't keep our own stuff together? It's because people keep coming in there and saying, I have something more important to spend that money on. Really?
Well, keep in mind, the state still pays the school bond debt reimbursement. We are still paying. The school districts can go out and issue a bond and spend a lot of money, and the state says, sure, I got you. When we as the legislature have no authority in the decision to make that spend. So don't forget that the state is still paying for those types of decisions. However, I don't know how much the smaller REAAs are able to take advantage of that program.
Yeah. Sarah Vance is our guest. We got one final segment dead ahead. I'm going to let her drive the bus a little bit the next segment, because I've been kind of just pounding the hell out of a few things that are just irritating to me. So we're going to come back here in just a moment, and we will continue with her in just a sec. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We will return right after this. Don't go anywhere.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Sarah Vance continues with us. In 2024, the NEA Health Insurance took in $99 million. In 2023, it took in $139 million. Notice the huge difference in revenue. This means the NEA will demand more from the districts to fill that revenue hole. Well, I mean, again, that's the thing. Why is the NEA being allowed to hold all this money for health? Shouldn't it be? Anyway, it's a whole other thing. Sarah, what do you think is going to happen with this special session here? I was gonna save this to ask you in the next segment, but then I realized I just said that you could talk about whatever you want. But so I want to ask, what do you think is going to happen here? Well, paint me a picture. Hold the crystal ball up to your head. What do you think is going to happen here?
I think that we likely won't have a special session. If we do, it will be one day. That's my prediction.
You think gavel in, gavel out, that's it?
I think they are the majority will gavel in, focus on the veto overrides, and then gavel out.
And do you think that they will have enough? Do you think there's enough to override? I mean, at this point, only 46 voted to pass it. We know that Forrest Dunbar's overseas for the Guard, so that's already down to 45. 45 is the threshold. That means only one person can make a decision on this thing. So what do you think is going to happen? Do you think there's going to be a change, or do you think that they make it and then they move on? What's your thought?
I don't know. I think legislators are under a lot of pressure right now if they were on the fence. And that's why there's all this talk about whether or not we should go. And people are saying, it's definitely our constitutional responsibility to attend on day one. The majority has said that they don't think that they have the votes. So I think that they will try to avoid it altogether. They do not want a messy situation. The presiding officers like order and control and want to avoid drama. So I know that that's going to be their number one goal, and they will go in on what they can win. They will only go on things that they have a sure deal about. So I'm wondering if they will just not show up at all. It's not been done before, but there's a first for everything.
And when you say not show up at all, you mean like the presiding officers just don't show up to the special session? Is that what you're saying? Or they just...
It could be, or they could show up and gavel in and hold what we would consider a technical session and gavel out and let the clock run out on the legislative session, because the clock goes for 30 days. They need a majority in order to properly gavel out the session. But if they just let the clock run out, then nothing happens.
Interesting. Well, and I had heard that they were very worried about having enough votes to make it happen. And so you think that they would rather not take the vote than to show that the vote failed?
Well, one of the most important things that you are taught as a member of the legislature is how to count. So the most important thing that you can do is to know how to count to 21 and 11. And when it comes time for these vetoes, you have to count what the threshold is, depending on if it's a policy bill or an appropriation bill. And that's the most important thing that our presiding officers are going to do. And they're not going to hold the session with an unknown. They will know going in what votes that they have. And it's what I know of these two presiding officers, they will go with a sure deal.
Well, now I'm really curious as to what's going to happen here. And if you learn how to count, have you counted? I mean, again, we had 45 here, or 46 not too long ago. Even with 45, it's a squeaker. But I mean, have you heard, and you don't have to name names, but have you heard anybody who's changing their mind on this deal, or is it just somebody who may not be there?
We haven't had those types of conversations. I think people are just trying to deal with the fact that we are having a special session. You need to keep in mind that most of the members in the legislature have not gone through a special session. And so this is a whole new experience for them. And for the rest of us, it's like, wow, they're not so special anymore. And that's why, I'm not surprised by all of this. I've gone through some crazy times. Yeah. And, I really would love to focus on education policy. August is a great time for that because it's ahead of hunting and fishing season, it's after fishing season, before hunting season. It's before the holidays and allows us an entire month to focus on policy.
Here we go.
The Michael Duke Show, proudly splitting the left versus right dichotomy. Yeah, I had to look that word up too. I don't think it means what he thinks it means. Here he is, though. That guy, Michael Dukes, the one with the show.
The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. I don't know what just happened, but it stopped like right now. The audio just stopped. Okay, we are ready and continuing on with Sarah Vance. And in fact, right before we came back on the air, she was just giving me the rundown on what she thinks might happen in the special session. So she could feel free to revisit that or whatever. But I told her I'd also give her the floor for anything else she wanted to take a crack at here as we go through. So let's get started on it. Sarah, what are your thoughts here as we jump into this? What are you thinking? And what are you focused on in the interim, et cetera, et cetera? Give us your thoughts. You drive the bus here.
Well, Frank here in the chat is thinking about the same thing I am, and that is fishing season right now.
Okay.
Hey, the fish are running. Let's talk about something positive. People are flooding to the peninsula to go dip netting and filling their freezers. We had down here at the Nick Dudiak fishing hole on the Spit, we had kings running. Snagging was open last weekend. So I think that's closed now. But, the Kenai River is having dip netting open until July 31st, I believe. And, come to the peninsula, spend lots of money, clean up your mess. I do ask to clean up your fish carcasses because it's gross out there if you don't. But otherwise, my family's thinking about that. And, we want to get out and just enjoy Alaska, and really prepare for winter and have a good time with our family.
She goes, it's gross. Otherwise it's gross. Clean your mess up, man. Yeah. What the heck? It is gross out there. People are talking a lot about, we're trying to squeeze a lot of enjoyment and work into a very short period of time in the summer. And so that's one downside to the whole special session is it really cuts into that kind of time where you could be, filling the freezer or doing the chores or, expanding, building on the house, doing whatever it is that you could do while the weather's nice. It definitely would be a kind of a roadblock to that or a speed bump, so to speak, to that.
Well, I did cheat a little bit on the fishing because we were gone in Illinois, and some of my commercial fishermen from Soldovia posted on social media that on Wednesday and Saturday they come into the dock and sell their fish, $20 for a red. And I'm like, how much do we spend to go dip netting?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
we got skunked last time.
Yeah.
I kind of want to make sure I have some fish.
Yeah.
So,
Don't ever do that math. How much do I actually spend per pound of meat to go hunting or per pound of fish to go fishing? Don't ever do that math. You'll find out that's some of the most expensive stuff you'll ever eat. But yeah, I know when they're showing up and they're like, we'll be at the docks at so-and-so and you can come down and buy it for, $20 a fish or whatever it is. And you're like, okay, that's a good way to be.
So I just got 10 fish, so we would have a little something because I want us to go out as a family and work for it like everyone else. But I'm like, okay, I know that we will at least have some salmon. So since we were gone, I text my oldest daughter who was home last minute and said, hey, you want to fillet some fish? And she was great. She went out and took care of it and freezer packed it and everything. So we have a good start.
Good. Well, that's always a plus. What else are you focusing on here for the summer? I mean, it doesn't have to be political stuff and everything else, but I mean, I'm a little concerned. I just saw the school district saying that they, that they just finalized their budget, but they're cutting all these other things out, which I was asking, why are some of these things in their budget to begin with? Why isn't the rest of the borough taking care of it? Or, why isn't it through fees or funds or whatever else? What are your thoughts here as we get ready to come back into the school year here in another 2 months?
Well, there's going to be a lot of changes and there needs to be more. But one of the solutions that we can do is create a service area for our pools and theaters. Those buildings are owned by the borough. And we could have a separate service area that we pay as a community to keep them open that is separate from the school budget. And, I think that's a fantastic idea. Mayor Machicki talked about, Nikiski does that and they have for a long time and they're very happy with that. And that's one solution that we could do to keep the pools and theaters open since the community uses them more technically than the school does. So a lot of positive, opportunities and conversations on the horizon. So I just want people thinking outside the box on how we could continue to do this without just acting like it's the end of the world.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was thinking about that because, if it's something that's important to the community will step up, right? I mean, they will step up. And if everybody throws $20 in the kitty and they're able to create a fund or do fundraising, I mean, I think that there's a question, and that really leads back to the question of, can we start analyzing things like what's nice to have versus what's must-haves versus nice to haves. And I think that's where we keep getting lost in translation on a lot of this stuff, is that they keep saying, well, this is really nice to have, but is it a must have? And how do we start crossing some of these different expenditures into, how did the school district become fully responsible for a community pool versus just having a partial responsibility for their swim team or something? You know what I mean? Why we need to start looking at this and separating these things out a bit more.
Yes. And, it's possible. We have to just not be afraid of the future and change. And that's one of the hardest things. Nobody likes change. And that's really what we're having to do, is change the way that we're doing things, because the school districts have avoided the conversation for probably more than a decade on some of these bigger decisions. And it's hard decisions. I got to hand it to the school board. They're having to make the cuts. They're having to close schools, consolidate, and no one's happy about that. However, no one wants their taxes to go up. And what I'm hearing is that is what's being proposed, is to fund the cap within the Kenai Peninsula Borough, and that will increase the taxes by $500,000. So we need to be a part of that conversation to make sure that we're helping our school district and our borough make the right decisions. And really, how can we divide that better?
And that's assuming that the State Department of Ed allows for that, right? Because they were actually working on a proposal to rescind and to press down and to stop, to basically reduce the amount that could be contributed from the local taxpayers. as well. It's because of the whole federal equity thing. They were saying, oh no, we're going to actually reduce the amount that communities can contribute. So, there's a lot of things up in the air right now.
There is. And I was looking at what the big, beautiful bill passed for education. And there is a $1,700 tax incentive to donate to private schools. And there's no cap on that. So that is up to each state on whether or not they adopt that and allow that tax exemption. And Alaska needs to ask themselves if we want to do that, and what will the impact be to help encourage and offset some of those costs for families. Is that going to help us? What would that look like, since we don't have as much open enrollment options? There's a lot of conversations that we're not having, which is unfortunate with all of the changes that are happening in the federal government.
Sarah Vance is our guest. We're down to the last couple minutes here. So I suppose we should give her a chance to wrap things up and give us her thoughts on what's happening if we don't talk to her for the rest of July or whatever. So Sarah, final thoughts here as we go. Let you go through.
July is our celebration of peonies down here in the Homer area on the peninsula. And This is the time to come. The lupin on the spit, I think is finished blooming. Nowhere else can you go and walk or ride a bike with miles of lupin in the beautiful Kachemak Bay than right here. The peonies are blooming, and you should see them in our farmers market on Wednesdays and Saturdays. But there's ways that you can tour the farms and have a lot of fun workshops and recipes and everything peonies. So it's beautiful. Come down and see us. And I look forward. I haven't connected with you, Michael, and just sat down for a cup of coffee in a long time.
Yeah,
we need to do that, because I'm so excited that you are my constituent officially now. Yeah,
well, it's been busy for all of us, right? And for sure, we definitely need to get caught up now, and we're doing it, but we're slowing it down. And yeah, they're having a bouquet bar. Did you hear about that? They're going to be doing peony bouquets tomorrow down at the Pack House on Lakeshore Drive. So I think Terry's going to go down there and do that as well. So it should be fun. Yep, it's the celebration of the city of peonies. So come on down and join us. And then Sarah, you and I, we'll have to get a cup of coffee and figure out how to fix all the world's problems in 20 minutes or less. We'll figure it out. So, all right. Sarah Vance, thank you so much for coming on board. As always, it's good to talk with you, and we will talk with you again soon. How about that?
Sounds good.
All right, folks, we are out of time. We got more coming up tomorrow. We will see you, the Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Have a good day. All right. Any final thoughts there, Sarah, before we let you go?
Oh, I think one of the things that we need to do right now is continue to focus on time with our families. We get all wrapped up in the stress of everything going on in the world, but when it comes down to it, it's time with our families and our God that matters the most. And that's what I plan on doing this interim.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. It's, taking a little time off every now and then just to hang out and be with them is definitely the important stuff for sure. All right. Well, Sarah Vance, thank you so much for coming on board, and we will catch you sometime in the near future here. Hopefully hopefully that's the word. So thank you so much.
Always a good time, Michael.
Bye. She just locked up. I think she just locked up. All right. Oh, there we go. Okay. There she. Bye. See you later. She staggered there at the last few minutes there. Okay. Okay, my friends. Well, that does it for me. We are ready to go. We're going to get out of here, go do our thing. And we will see you guys tomorrow for Firearms Friday. We'll see you. Have a good one.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.